This read aloud is with persecution of homosexuals in the Third Reich. I think this one's going to be kind of complicated for you guys as well. So I would recommend listening to my version of it, because I'll explain things along the way. But either way, during the reading, you need to annotate and answer the questions in complete sentences. All right, here we go. Let's just peek through it. It's really focused on paragraph 175, and then you'll have a reading on world reaction to the Holocaust. Okay, let's begin. Persecution of homosexuals in the Third Reich. While male homosexuality remained illegal in Weimar Germany under paragraph 175 of the Criminal Code, German homosexual rights activists became worldwide leaders in efforts to reform societal attitudes that condemned homosexuality as a sign of Germany's decadence. Decadence means living lavishly, richly. The Nazis posed as moral crusaders who wanted to stamp out the vice, homosexuality, from Germany in order to help win the racial struggle. Once they took power in 1933, the Nazis intensified persecution of German male homosexuals. Persecution ranged from the dissolution of homosexual organizations to internment in concentration camps. The Nazis believed that male homosexuals were weak, effeminate men who could not fight for the German nation. They saw homosexuals as unlikely to produce children and increased the German birth rate. The Nazis held that inferior races produced more children than Aryans, so anything that diminished Germany's reproductive potential was considered a racial danger. Why did the Nazis target male homosexuals? Let's make a copy of this. If you haven't done so, you should. Okay, where was I? Oh, so yeah, make sure your name, date, and period's in there. There's just one coming back, so that's going to be the 20th. See, period this time. Okay, so let's answer question one. Why did Nazis target male homosexuals? Well, Nazis said homosexuals weak, wouldn't fight, wouldn't produce children, and were a danger to Aryans. All this is nonsense, but it is what they said. SS Chief Heinrich Himmler directed the increasing persecution of homosexuals in the Third Reich. Lesbians were not regarded as a threat to Nazi racial policies and were generally not targeted for persecution. That makes no sense even by their logic, because women who are homosexual would not be reproducing children either. That's the main danger. So even their own logic is flawed, but let's hear it out. Similarly, the Nazis generally did not target non-German homosexuals unless they were active with German partners. In most cases, the Nazis were prepared to accept former homosexuals into the racial community, provided that they became racially conscious and gave up their lifestyle. First of all, being gay is not a lifestyle. There's a study done in San Diego that demonstrates that with evidence that being gay or whatever on the sexuality spectrum is biological. You can look that up if you like. On May 6th, 1933, students led by stormtroopers, Sturmabteilung SA, my German's not that good, sorry, broke into the Institute for Sexual Science in Berlin and confiscated its unique library. 4 days later, most of this collection of over 12,000 books and 35,000 irreplaceable pictures was destroyed, along with thousands of other, quote, degenerate, unquote, works of literature in the book burning in Berlin city center. And I think I've shown you a visual of that, or video of that in the slideshow. The remaining materials were never recovered. Magnus Hirschfeld, the founder of the Institute and a pioneer in the scientific study of human sexuality, was lecturing in France at the time and chose not to return to Germany. Okay. Hirschfeld, president, returned to Germany as his books and photos were destroyed while he was lecturing. France. Destruction of the Institute was a first step toward eradicating an openly gay or lesbian culture from Germany. Police closed bars and clubs such as the El Dorado and banned publication as Die Freundschaft, friendship. In this early stage, the Nazis drove homosexuals underground, destroying their network of support. In 1934, the Gestapo, secret state police, instructed local police forces to keep lists of all men engaged in homosexual activities. Police in many parts of Germany had, in fact, been doing this for years. The Nazis used these pink lists to hunt down individual homosexuals during police actions. What is a pink list? A list of homosexuals by the police. Oh, I forgot the subject. The pink list is why is this a threat? Here's the thing. You make lists of people, you're trying to monitor them. If you're looking for something they did wrong, if you're looking for a way to create evidence where you might need to punish them later. And that's what this is about. On June 28, 1935, the Ministry of Justice revised paragraph 175. The revisions provided a legal basis for extending Nazi persecution of homosexuals. Ministry officials expanded the category of criminally indecent activities between men to include any act that could be construed as homosexual. Courts later decided that even intent or thought sufficed. Okay. On October 26, 1936, Himmler, it's Heinrich Himmler, formed within the secret police the Reich Control Office for Combating Abortion and Homosexuality. That meant Himmler was in charge of the Gestapo. Joseph Messenger, executed in 1947 for his brutality in occupied Poland, led the new office. So he's going to do it brutally, I'm sure. Police had powers to hold in protective custody or preventative arrest those deemed dangerous to Germany's moral fiber, jailing indefinitely without trial anyone they choose. In addition, homosexual prisoners released from jail were immediately rearrested and sent to concentration camps. The police thought it likely they would continue to engage in homosexual acts. Well, if you accept that it's not a lifestyle but a biological imperative, then of course they're going to continue to engage in those acts. So that makes no sense to me, but okay. let's see if we can at least understand the argument. What evidence was required to convict under paragraph 175? I didn't hear anything about evidence. Looks like they could, well, that's about arrest. They could conviction under paragraph 175, fire police. We think it likely that a homosexual a person would continue to engage in homosexual acts. Okay, that does it. Next part is the law in paragraph 175. On September 1st, 1935, this harsher amended version of paragraph 175 of the Criminal Code, originally framed in 1871, went into effect. Under this revised law and the creation of the Reich Special Office for the Combating of Homosexuality and Abortion, Special Office 2S, the number of prosecutions increased sharply, peaking in the years 1937 and 1935. 9. Half of all convictions for homosexual activity under the Nazi regime occurred during these years. 175, a male commits lewd and lascivious acts with another male presents himself to be so abused for lewd and lascivious acts shall be punished by imprisonment. In the case of a participant under 21 years of age at the time of the commission of the act, the court may, in especially slight cases, refrain from punishment. In other words, first of all, it has to be a male, which is a sexist thing in the first place. It's just the lawyer and me talking. Sorry, these are the things I notice. And if you're a minor, basically they can let you off the hook. There isn't a mandatory sentence. Let's go to 175A. Confinement in a penitentiary, that's a prison, not to exceed 10 years and under extenuating circumstances, imprisonment for not less than 3 months shall be imposed. 1. Upon a male who with force or with threat of imminent danger to life and limb compels another male to commit lewd and lascivious acts with him or compels the other party to submit to abuse for lewd and lascivious acts. This is sexual assault or rape. Upon a male who by abusive relationship of dependence upon him in consequence of service, employment, or subordination includes another male to commit lewd and lascivious acts with him or to submit to being abused for such acts. This is the sexual harassment scenario. Upon 3, upon a male who being over 21 years of age induces another male under 21 years of age. Okay, this is solicitation of a minor. Induces to commit lewd and lascivious acts with him or to submit to abuse for lewd and lascivious acts. Upon a male who professionally engages in lewd and lascivious acts with other men, prostitution, or submits to such abuse by other men or offers himself for lewd and lascivious acts with other men. 175B. Lewd and lascivious acts contrary to nature between human beings and animals shall be punished by imprisonment. Loss of civil rights may also be imposed. It's a reference to bestiality there. All right. It says define lewd and define lascivious. Okay. It's not in the reading, but let's go ahead and turn to Miss Google for assistance on this one. Lewd. It's generally sexually provocative, but both of those. But this is all a judgment. Crude, offensive sexually. So let's go ahead and do that one. Lewd is crude and offensive sexually. Lascivious is feeling or revealing an overt and often offensive sexual desire. someone else's feelings, make it criminal. That is not good law in America, or even under common law, typically. Let's continue. From 1937 to 1939, the peak years of the Nazi persecution of homosexuals, the police increasingly raided homosexual meeting places, seized address books, and created networks of informers and other undercover agents to identify and arrest suspected homosexuals. On April 4th, 1938, the Gestapo issued a directive indicating that men convicted of homosexuality could be incarcerated in concentration camps. Between 1933 and 1945, the police arrested an estimated 100,000 men as homosexuals. Most of the 50,000 men sentenced by the court spent time in regular prisons. Between 5,000 and 15,000 were interned in concentration camps. Wow. So, as it reads here, the type of persecution faced by homosexuals was homosexuals. I don't know why it's freezing on me. Faced imprisonment in concentration camp. So let's actually do better now. They faced arrest, criminal trials, and the risk of imprisonment in concentration camps. The Nazis interned some homosexuals in concentration camps immediately after the seizure of power in January 1933. Those interned came from all areas of German society and often had the only cause of their imprisonment in common. Some homosexuals were interned under other categories by mistake, and the Nazis purposefully miscategorized some political prisoners as homosexuals. Why? So they would be subject to the same abuse as homosexuals. Prisoners marked by pink triangles to signify homosexuality were treated harshly in the camps. According to many survivor accounts, homosexuals were among the most abused groups in the camp. Um, Identifying homosexuals with pink triangle led to them being targeted for extra abuse by guards and other prisoners. They would stick out so they could be targeted and humiliated and abused. It's brutal. Because some Nazis believed homosexuality was a sickness that could be cured, they designed policies to cure homosexuals of their disease, quote unquote, through humiliation and hard work. Guards ridiculed and beat homosexual prisoners upon arrival, often separating them from other inmates. Rudolf Hess, commandant of Auschwitz, wrote in his memoirs that homosexuals were segregated in order to prevent homosexuality from spreading to other inmates and guards. It's not a flu. It's stupid. Personnel in charge of work details in the Dora Mittelbau underground rocket factory or in the stone quarries of Flossenburg and Buchenwald often gave deadly assignments to homosexuals. So if they died, no big loss. Was the rationale? That's brutal. Survival in camp took on many forms. Some homosexual inmates secured administrative and clerical jobs. For other prisoners, sexuality became a means of survival. In exchange for sexual favors, some capos protected a chosen prisoner, usually of young age, giving him extra food and shielding him from the abuses of other prisoners. Ugh. Homosexuals themselves very rarely became capos due to the lack of a support network. Capo guardianship was no protection against the guard's brutality, of course. In any case, the capo often tired of an individual, sometimes killing him, and find another on the next transport. The individual homosexual inmates could secure a measure of protection. In some ways, as a group, homosexual prisoners lacked a support network common to other groups. Without this help in mitigating, that means lessening brutality, homosexual prisoners were unlikely to survive long. Okay, so what did they do? So capos forced homosexual prisoners to have sex in exchange for food protection and killed them when they grew tired of them. It's awful. One avenue of survival available to some homosexuals is castration, which some criminal justice officials advocated as a way of curing sexual deviance. Homosexual defendants in criminal cases of concentration camps could agree to castration in exchange for lower sentences. Later, judges and SS camp officials could order castration without the consent of a homosexual prisoner. Castration is, I think, the removal of the male reproductive organ, gonads, the testicles. You got the humans. This is just awful. Okay. In the United States, how are homosexuals treated unfairly? Well, in the U.S., homosexuals are targeted for arrest by police. 9, opportunity to serve the military. And for years, many marrying or accruing spousal rights such as insurance, medical care, community property law, etc. And that's the main one. I mean, there's other issues too where you face issues, maybe getting hired, maybe renting a room, house, school, whatever. All right, the next part is world reaction during the Holocaust. I think it'd be best if you read this one on your own. I'm not going to read it all for you, but that got you halfway there. So go ahead and read this one. It's much shorter than the other one. And I think you should really look at it yourself, how the world responds to what happened to Jewish people during the Holocaust. And then when you're done, go ahead and submit it. Make sure you finish first. Okay? Even if that means you have homework. Thank you.